Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. Teddy Covers is my co-host, and if you want betting information, this is the show. We're going to start off with Nick Parsons. He's going to talk about the Chiefs-Baltimore Ravens game. That's Thursday night. It starts the NFL season, and he'll tell you exactly how to bet it. He's also going to look at Maryland in college football. They're minus 8.5. Yes or no? We'll go through that. Adam Trigger after that. He's going to look at the Syracuse, Georgia Tech college football game and the Diamondbacks versus the Giants. Carmine Bianco, the Rams and the Lions, Philly and the Jays. Teddy Covers is my co-host. It's betting time! What do you got in your big game breakdown, brother?
Well, first, Lawrence, well done with the intro, my friend. You got it all out. And since I rarely compliment you, I thought I would give you some love today. Big game breakdown. We're going to talk ESPN Saturday night showdown, Alabama against South Florida. South Florida gave them a battle last year. Can they do it again in 2024? And what bettors learned? We're going to talk about MLB. Down the stretch they come. I've done everything wrong in baseball for the last week, Lawrence. Hopefully, my little breakdown will help me get back on the right track.
I've had 2 winning baseball days in a row. Last night, though, the Cubs let me down. I still had a winning night, but, man, I would have swept had the Cubs have held that lead. 3-0 going into the 8th. But such happens. It's $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk. Same with Sportsmemo. Nick Parsons joining us right off the bat. Always a pleasure, Nick. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
You know what? I had no choice in the matter. Literally, Johnny made me put you on. But last time you were on,
back from 6 weeks in Thailand vacation, ready to rock here for the opening of the season here.
Yeah, never a great thing when a white old man discusses his trip to Thailand, so we'll move on. You did amazing last time you were on the show, though, brother. It's really, we love having you with us. And Nick does have a big one over at Sportsmemo, a 5% play that is only $2. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but let's start with some actionable information. The NFL season begins on Thursday night. The Chiefs are hosting the Ravens. The Chiefs started last year on Thursday night against Detroit. It was an incredible football game. Offhand, I think it was 22-21 for the Lions.
21-20.
20.
Yeah.
Thank God you corrected me, Teddy. Thank God. Nick, how do we bet this game tonight? Thursday night?
Well, on Thursday, yeah. Well, right off the bat, when we're looking at these lines, I think the first thing that jumps out at you is that the money has been split 50-50 on the side and total pretty much right when these lines first came out, and I think that's for good reason. It's probably a pretty tricky matchup for some to handicap because of how good both of these teams are. The Chiefs, they're going for the three-peat, and Baltimore won the AFC last year. The last time that these teams did play together, the Chiefs came out on top 17-10. But since then, though, Baltimore's added Derrick Henry, and obviously he's going to really help Lamar Jackson. He had over 1,100 yards rushing last year and 12 touchdowns for Tennessee, and so he should have an even better year this year in this Ravens system. The Chiefs, though, they have one of the better defensive units in the NFL. As you mentioned, they're not going to forget that they failed to cover and, in fact, lost 21-20 at home to Detroit as 4-point favorites last year. One thing, though, about that was that Travis Kelce didn't play in that game, and he will be in this one. Now, the Ravens, they were 12-7 against the spread in 2023, and Jackson and company were 2-0 against the spread as road dogs. But Mahomes has a 3-1 record against Baltimore in the regular season, and so this is where I think where bettors have had an issue where the split has come here because of how good Jackson's against the spread record in these situations has been. And so, guys, that's why I'm going to suggest bypassing the spread altogether. I think that Mahomes and Kelce can get the job done here in week 1. Lay this reasonable mid-sized price on the Chiefs.
Nick Parsons joining us, everyone, sportsmemo.com. Nick, you mentioned Kansas City's defense, and you're right. Second best defense for points allowed all year last year. The first best defense, however, was Baltimore. So, to me, what I'm worried about in this game, and Teddy, feel free to jump in. I'm worried that this game is more important to Baltimore than Kansas City. This is a statement game right out of the bat for Baltimore. They have a chance to put their foot down. These two teams are going to likely fight for home field advantage. Detroit, Casey lost last year in the first game, went on to win the Super Bowl. They know that they can lose this game, and it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. And now you want us to lay minus 145. I'm concerned about this bet. Why the money line as opposed to the spread?
And is that a question for me or Teddy?
You. And then Teddy can jump in. I
It's
called
your bet.
Teddy this morning.
Right.
I called Teddy this morning. I'm like, how do we make this a discussion? Instead of I ask you a question, Teddy's like, you can't do it if you're not in the studio. There are no cues. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to try. So, Nick, why the money line?
I think, that's the thing, always betting. It's betting money line in against the spread sports. And so I would typically never do that, anything above 3. But because this is below 3 and such a reasonable price, below minus 150 here, so many times, Prez and Teddy, probably you guys too, I've just, even, with such a small spread, I've been screwed by just the 1 point. And so for me, I just, feel more comfortable just laying that little bit extra there just for the on the money line.
Laying a little bit of extra juice, says Nick Parsons. Of course, $2 Tuesday handicapper at sportsmemo.com today. Let's shift our focus to college football and talk about Maryland and Michigan State. The Terps looked really good on opening day. Michigan State, I watched the game. I thought they played better, much better than the final score would indicate, but they failed to cover as a favorite. Talk to me, Michigan State, Maryland, Saturday night college football.
Yeah, exactly. Michigan State looked pretty shaky in its 16-10 home win over Florida Atlantic. It was a 12-point favorite, so it didn't even come close to covering the spread there. The Spartans looked pretty poor in Jonathan Smith's debut as head coach. Aiden Childs, he threw an interception on the opening snap. There was a couple other shaky plays and shaky calls, even by Smith himself. He went for it on 4th and 1 from the FAU 9 instead of going for a field goal, which would have put them up by 9. And of course, they got stuffed. It looked okay defensively, the Spartans did, but of course, you got to take that with a grain of salt. And now they're here on the road to face
Maryland.
Who are we talking? Facing Maryland. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit nervous here from this trip with my family to Thailand. But yeah, I got all my notes here.
I'm glad you got the family part in. Well done, Nick. And no need to be nervous. Teddy's chomping at the bit to rip you to shreds, so you should not be nervous.
All right. Well, I'll be ready. But yeah, Maryland is off the dominant 50-7 win over UConn, guys. Billy Edwards Jr., he threw for 2 touchdowns. The defense came up big across the board. It was supposed to win big, and it did in that game. I mean, Edwards he looked good in that game. He did lead Maryland to a win over Auburn in the Music City Bowl already last year. So to me, these two quarterbacks are on an entirely different level. And then when we look at their schedule, this one I think means, you're talking, Lawrence, there just in the last analysis there about who this means more to, and just looking at their schedules, Maryland has a much tougher assignment in Virginia next week. Michigan State returns home for another cream puff against Prairie View. And so I say that the conditions are definitely right for a blowout here. I think Maryland will keep the foot on the gas from start to finish. So I'm going to say lay the points.
So let me ask you, Nick, one of the concepts we talk about, buying low and selling high. And it feels like for this game, we're kind of doing the opposite. Maryland's coming off a dominant win. Sparty's coming off a game where they didn't cover the point spread, even though I thought they played better than the score would indicate. But it feels like you're laying a premium with Maryland in this ballgame. Does that concern you at all? Do you feel the same way? And is it worth it to lay this premium?
I think it's worth it to lay this premium just based upon the form of what we saw. Michigan State just looked completely out of out of sorts last week. And so, yeah, I think Maryland's going to run up this score. I'm not afraid that 8.5. I think they're going to win by double digits for sure. I just can't see Michigan State's offense keeping pace, and so I think it's worth it.
Nick Parsons joining us. Nick, I had Michigan State last week as one of my losers. God, I was pulling my hair out in that game. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, nobody needs to hear me, bitch. 5% non-conference play. It is only $2. And guys, you want to know how good Nick Parsons is? Firstly, he looks amazing in a hat and those glasses. Cool as shit. But putting that aside, because you don't bet how cool he looks, he was the number one NFL and college football expert at Sportsmemo last year. He was the number one college expert and NFL expert individually the last 365 days. He just had a great NFL preseason. There's a reason Nick Parsons is with us. There's a reason he's on Sportsmemo. There's a reason he's on the show. And there's a reason we chose him as our $2 feature handicapper. Nick, what should the clients expect when playing your plays?
They should expect to get their plays early in the week. And so I know everybody likes getting that. And so they have as much time as they can to shop around. It's more important than ever, seeing how sharp that these odds makers are these days. So, and lots of plays and lots of, if you like contrarian plays, then I'm your guy.
There we go. Nick Parsons, everyone, and Joseph Mendoza just bought your plate for $2. Thank you, Joseph. Greatly appreciate your business. A shout out to everybody in the chat room. Waj, B Daddy, Hal, Joe, Ray, Bill. Nice to see you, Bill. I haven't seen your name in a while. Javier, always with us. Joshua, and so on and so forth. Rye Cape, haven't seen your name. Thanks for joining us. If you guys like what you're hearing, please take a second out of your day and hit that like button. It's so crucially important to our business. We got 167,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. I will have the NFL presidential address up late today, guys. I'm videotaping it right after the show. The way the NFL presidential address is going to work this year is simple. We're going to go down every game on the board, and we're going to do it fast. These are going to be 10-minute videos taking apart every single game. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll have no Teddy there to get in my way. Also, I have a 5%. Hi, Teddy. Also, I have a 5% NFL play up this weekend. I was not going to have a 5% play up week one, but man, I took apart every game last night. I spent 6 hours handicapping the board. It started as a 3% play. Then it became a 4% play. Then it became a 5% play, and I just couldn't get away from it. I absolutely freaking love this play. I have a coupon to give out, Prez 10, Prez or Z10. You get $10 off of my 5% play. Please get down on that. Teddy, a huge congrats to you, man. Your opening line report is killing it. I mean, dude, it's got a rival bet on it. I mean, over 10,000 views already. It's only been up for a day. Congratulations. You got to be doing something right.
I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, Drew and I together. And if you want the antithesis of Lawrence's NFL show, he's going to run through everything in 10 minutes. Drew and I break down all 16 games every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch that show again, the WagerTalk's NFL opening line report right now on YouTube. Let's talk about something that happened last night. I'm going to talk about me for a minute. Really frustrating weekend for me in baseball. Literally I make a short list every day. Every single play that I didn't play won. Most of them blowouts. Everything I did play, I lost one on a walk-off in the ninth. I lost another with 2 outs and 2 strikes in extra innings. Yesterday, I was just wrong. I had the first 5 under. You know how that goes when you're running bad. Leadoff walk, home run, boom, top of the first inning, and your under 4 is already screwed. That was the case yesterday. Wasn't right. Now, football is king. All right, we know that. Most of my clients, shouldn't say most, many of my clients couldn't care less if I win in baseball as long as I win in football over the weekend. And I respect that. I recognize that. Frankly, I feel the same way. Football is king, and you can't let MLB make you crazy in September the way you let it make you crazy in June or July. September, it's a very different sports betting landscape. So baseball down the stretch, all the pennant races. For me, at least, there's only two things I'm looking to do in September baseball. One, I want to ride those friggin' streaks. Low-hanging fruit. Two, find underdogs playing good baseball and ride them too. September MLB is a dog month for me, in my opinion. That's largely what I'll be betting, dogs and totals with some of these streaks. And the last thing, this is important to note, I'm not going to be talking a lot of baseball in September as we get football season is here, obviously. But we talk about it in every sport. It might be most true of all when it comes to baseball. Must win doesn't mean will win. Teams are not in must-win spots because they're elite teams. There's my last 2 cents on baseball for a while, Lawrence. Back to you, my friend.
Teddy, I think there's a lot of other reasons why in baseball specifically must-win doesn't equal win. They grip their bats tighter. But on a whole, baseball isolates that pitcher as well. And, man, no matter how bad you want to win, you're not good. At the best, you're going to hit 300. So it's one of those interesting sports where you can't focus on tackling better or running better routes or, game planning better. It's a game where the pitcher's on, the batters aren't, they're not. With that said, it's football time, and I'm excited. We got Adam Trigger joining us. He's going to talk football right off the bat. Trig, I'm loving your TikTok videos right now. I've hearted every single one of them. Great work, brother, and thank you for doing it. Tell us what's going on your TikTok channel.
Yeah, so I've just been trying to have fun over there, posting a couple different things. It's a good app, and I've done the research. It looks like that's the app that's going to take off going forward. So I want a presence on there, but really, I just want you guys to follow me. So when we get to college basketball, I can go live on that app. So apparently, you need 1,000 followers to go live. And I want to, when I'm going around to different games and stuff like that, I want to be able to pop on TikTok on a Saturday morning when there's 300 games, actually more like 150, but 300 teams playing, and just be able to rapid fire off, games that you want to hear about, questions that you have. So that's what I'm trying to do over on TikTok. So come on over to TikTok, give me a follow, give Prez and Teddy a follow as well. Follow our WagerTalk TikTok while you're over there. But what I'm also doing right now, I'll do a video for you on demand. So if there's a game that you want in a sport that I handicap, baseball is great. I love September baseball. Everyone's betting football. Like, I prepare all year to bet September baseball because I watch a ton of AAA. The biggest difference between baseball in September and in the rest of the year, we're dealing with 40-man rosters right now. The 40-man roster is essentially the 15 other guys that are the sort of the key players at AAA, which I've been handicapping and betting for free on Twitter all season long, and I'm having a really good AAA season. So if you need info on a certain game, drop me a line on TikTok, drop it in the comments. I will post a video with a full breakdown, and that way I can go and I can drone on. Kelly's not on TikTok with a bell. She's not telling me to shorten it up. I can give you all the info there, and I think they give me 10 minutes. That's plenty of time to break a game down for you.
Adam, droning on is your specialty. Look, I think your videos are great. So I like them all. Guys, please follow Adam. It's really, you can tell how important it is for him to get 1,000 followers. He really wants to do this live stuff at his college basketball games. Adam, I don't know how you have time to eat, spend time with your wife, girlfriend, same thing. So you do AAA baseball on top of KBO, on top of baseball, on top of every other sport. I hear you're thinking about doing sumo wrestling. How do you have time for all of this?
Well, no, I actually that's the thing. I really don't do that many different things. I don't watch the NBA, don't handicap it. Don't watch the NHL, don't handicap it at all.
Right,
And
fair
by the
enough.
time by the time baseball ends, I'm fully into college basketball. So the way I've kind of scaled it for myself, football season, like everyone can follow the NFL, 30 teams. I don't think it's difficult to like update your NFL rankings or stay tuned into that league. College football, I really focus on two conferences, the ACC and the MAC. The reason is I'm in the Syracuse area, so it's easy for me to follow the ACC, and a lot of my friends are live in other ACC demographics. And then the MAC is kind of in our area as well. Buffalo gets coverage here, and it's a conference I found that's a little bit easier to beat. Outside of that, I'm not doing much college football, and that's where I find the time to stay on top of baseball, where I think the bigger edge is right now, to be honest.
Bill Sandoval just started following you on TikTok. Thanks, Bill. Trig appreciates it. Trig, let's get into some actionable information. We got Syracuse playing Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech now 2-0 to start the season, and a big win against Florida State right off the bat. With that said, as it turns out, Florida State is clearly not the team we thought they would be. Minus 16.5 against BC. They lose outright. Now Georgia Tech is playing Syracuse. Syracuse 1-0 on the year. They're +3. How do you handicap this game?
So I saw Brian Power talked about this game yesterday. He likes the over. I definitely agree with that. I think the sort of main narrative I'm hearing in regards to Syracuse is, well, the defense didn't look good. Marlowe Wax goes down, so there's no way they can get any stops, which I think is important to point out, but I don't think it means that they're just not going to stop Georgia Tech. If you look at both of these teams so far, I think you instantly have to downgrade Georgia Tech for what we saw last night out of Florida State, because a week and a half ago, or however long ago that game was in Ireland, I think Georgia Tech came out of that looking really, really good. I think now that you've seen Florida State lose to Boston College, you got to downgrade them for that. So I'll go back to just looking at Saturday, what I saw, watching both of these teams play. So these games were back-to-back on the ACC network, watched every snap of both games. I thought the most impressive thing of either of the two games was Syracuse on offense. And I think Syracuse, that's how they're going to win games this year, is offense. You go back to, I know it was Ohio and they've had their issues and they've lost a bunch of players, but 480 yards of total offense. Kyle McCord looked great, 354 yards, 4 touchdowns. But the skill players on offense for Syracuse look legit. LaQuint Allen, Aronde Gadsden, Trebor Pena, they're going to make plays all season. They're going to do it against teams like Ohio. They're going to do it against teams like Georgia Tech, who, again, Georgia Tech's gotten better, but this defense was a disaster last year. So even if they've improved a little bit defensively, they have a long way to go, in my opinion, to be like significantly better defensively than they were last year, which was not very good. I do think Georgia Tech has improved, but again, how much they've improved, I think is getting, it's a little bit of a misconception based on the fact they're 2-0. And I'll continue to go back to the Florida State game. That game was in Ireland, just not as impressive of a win as I feel like the market is giving them credit for here, which comes to the opening line. And I know Teddy and Drew talk about opening lines. I'd be shocked if this one didn't jump off the page to you guys. Syracuse opening as a field goal underdog in a game where they'll be at home, sold out. I can guarantee the game's going to sell out. I've already talked to people close to the program. On last week against Ohio, 37,500 people there. All chairbacks at the Dome, so the Dome's capacity is now reduced by 6,000, which means they were 5,000 short of a sellout against Ohio. So Saturday at noon, guaranteed, is going to be sold out. It's going to be a great atmosphere. It'll be a blowout. I'll probably be wearing this as I'll be in attendance at the game. So the energy in Syracuse right now for Fran Bound and the program is off the charts, and I think they're going to show up to play. But then it comes back to something Brian said yesterday. The travel spot for Georgia Tech is brutal. Ireland, back home, and now up to Central New York. That's tough. And also, just go back to that game, that Georgia Tech played on Saturday night. They started to run out of steam a little bit in the second half. They needed a goal line stand to cover. I think it's crazy that Syracuse is getting a field goal. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes off more like +1. I make Syracuse the favorite. 4% bet for me, Syracuse +3.
So here's my first follow, Adam. I don't know if I'm going to have a second one, but, so last year these two teams met 31-22. Georgia Tech. And what really stood out from that box score to me is the fact that it felt like there was nothing doing at all from Syracuse's passing game. I think they had 53 yards passing or something in that contest, or net yards passing, which indicates some control of the line of scrimmage and or an inability of the receivers to get open. Does that change this year? Is Syracuse strong enough in the line of scrimmage to hang with Georgia Tech, regardless of spot for the Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, I mean, last year couldn't be less relevant for Syracuse at this point. You had Garrett Schrader running around with a chicken with his head cut off. Dino Babers was on his way out. By the time they played last year, it was like that the injuries were piling up. I'd have to go back and see. I don't think Gadsden even played in that game. This is a totally different Syracuse offense. Listen, Syracuse, if they lose games this year, it's going to be because they give up 40 points. Like, that's the concern. The reason I don't think that's as big of a concern here is I think Haynes King would have to come up and just ball out, because I think Georgia Tech is going to try to run the ball, and Syracuse will have a game plan for that. So if Cuse runs into a really just totally elite offense, they'll have some trouble. I don't have Georgia Tech there yet. Like, I think Haynes King is a solid player, and I think they're going to go as he goes, but I just don't think they're there yet. Syracuse's offense could very well be elite. Now, we need to see them against a good opponent, but I thought McCord looked awesome, and the skill players on this offense are really good. So, obviously you have to make some assumptions here. We've only seen Syracuse play Ohio. We've seen Georgia Tech play a couple different teams, but I think you got to downgrade them for Florida State now that Florida State's looked so bad. I just don't see how Syracuse is an underdog. Third week of travel for Georgia Tech. It's a tough spot, and I still like how Syracuse looks based on what I've seen. So give me the 3 points.
Adam Trigger. Teddy, anything else with the trig?
No. Let's move on to some MLB for today. Break down some actionable information for Tuesday, Lawrence.
Okay, Ad. Well, he threw it to me, but I'm going to throw it right at you. Diamondbacks. I won yesterday at over 3.5 with them. They're playing the Giants today, minus 130. Let's go.
Yeah, so the key here is going to be knowing who the starting pitcher is. I just did the first pitch show. This game came up. We didn't have a firm starting pitcher yet, so I told the audience I'd come back, be more prepared to break it down on WagerTalk today, and I'm going to give you kind of like both options here. So I think the reason that they haven't announced it yet is it's either going to be Kyle Harrison or Tristan Beck, and that's very, very different. You've got a lefty in Harrison, who I would prefer to play against. Arizona's been great against left-handed pitching here, and they've seen Harrison a little bit. If it's Beck, it'll be his debut at the big league level this year. He was hurt for the first half of the year. He's been in an extensive rehab at AAA, but he was really sharp in his last AAA outing, and this is his spot to pitch. So he was called up over the weekend. I got to assume that he's either going to pitch today or tomorrow. So the reason that you want to play Arizona here, if it's Harrison, they've crushed left-handed pitching all season. Another victim over the weekend. They tagged Justin Robleski and the Dodgers for 10 runs on 10 hits. They knocked Kershaw out over the weekend after 1 inning. So if it is Kyle Harrison, you have to like Arizona. And I think that the money move toward Arizona might suggest that might be the case. They've seen Harrison twice now this year. 14 hits in 10 innings so far against him, a lot of hard contact. And, you can make the argument, okay, well, Ketel Marte did a lot of that damage. Well, Eugenio Suarez was hitting under 200 for the first 3 months of the season. He is destroying the ball now. It's like he's 3 for 4 every night. He's red hot. So I think some of that offsets here. If it is Beck, and take this to tomorrow, because if it's not him today, it's probably tomorrow, I would like the Diamondbacks a lot less. I'd even almost look at, trying to play the Giants when it's Beck's turn, especially if it was here, because then it changes everything. You'd go Beck to the top Giants relievers, all of which you had not pitched the last couple days. Now, Arizona's bullpen's in good shape as well. Jordan Montgomery came in and mopped up yesterday, and I really like Ryan Nelson, who's the starter here for the Diamondbacks. So what I am hoping for, guys, is that they go Harrison today and push Beck off to tomorrow. Ryan Nelson has been a quality start machine. I believe 4 straight quality starts, 4 of his last 5, and he's been awesome at home. So if you get Ryan Nelson here, if you get Ryan Nelson here on the road, doesn't matter. He's been awesome pretty much at wherever. I believe 4 of his last 5, regardless of venue, have been quality starts. If it's Nelson against Harrison, Arizona has their top relievers too. I would really like the Diamondbacks. If it ends up being Beck, I'm going to scratch that handicap and I'll circle back tomorrow. But if we do get the Nelson-Harrison matchup, I think you got to give the nod to Arizona at like minus 120 or minus 125.
If you like this type of analysis and breakdowns, please tell us. Give us a like. A little thumbs up takes 1 second. We appreciate it very much. More than 166,000 subscribers to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. If you haven't done it, do it now so you can get instant alerts when your favorite shows go live. And of course, we appreciate the comments each and every day. If you like the show, what we like most of all is for you to tell your friend. Just one friend. We appreciate it very much. Adam, before we let you go, I want to ask you about this D-backs Giants game when it comes to Arizona's current form. All right, this is a team that just got bombed over the weekend, and really their bullpen got lit up by the Dodgers. They're coming off a 2-5 homestand. Their last road trip, Arizona, who's played so well since the All-Star break, they opened the road trip by getting swept in Tampa. Do you worry at all about the D-backs' current form and or their bullpen arms being a little bit gassed?
Yeah, I guess I was concerned about that more last week. I didn't jump in to play Arizona at all during that stretch. I thought that they didn't have great matchups against the Mets, and then of course the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and you have to still give them the respect that they deserve. But I think coming into this series is a good spot for a bounce back. So the Giants are a team. They don't hit. The lineup hasn't impressed me all year. The one guy in that Giants lineup that I would fear is Helio Ramos. And when he was hot, the Giants were playing well. He's now 0 for his last 12. I don't believe he had a hit in the series against the Marlins. And with him cooling off, that would really be a concern for me. Like I said, if this ends up being Harrison versus Nelson, I just think that you have a pretty solid starting pitching matchup. And then you look to the bullpen. Arizona has the better relievers here. They just have to figure out how to sort of organize those guys in the bullpen. But they used Jordan Montgomery in mop-up duty yesterday. Slate Ciccone came in and got crushed. He's sort of irrelevant at this point. He's just a 40-man roster guy. So Arizona's got all their bullpen guys as well, too. And I just think that, there's no question, Teddy, Arizona's the better team of these two teams. That's not up for debate. I think after getting, whacked around a little bit by the Dodgers yesterday, you get a focused effort, and I'll take the Diamondbacks at a cheap price over the Giants any day of the week if everything lines up, which it looks like it will here.
Adam, in 30 seconds or less, what do you have to promote?
5% MLB play goes tonight. I have four straight winners into tonight's game. Nice winner with the Twins last night. 2 winners in Korean baseball this morning. So nice little 4-game win streak. Hopefully we make it 5 in a row. That's in Major League Baseball tonight. It's a spot that I've been waiting for a whole week. And we've got the matchup we want, the price we want. So 5% play up on my page now.
Adam Trigger, everyone. Exclusive handicapper at WagerTalk. Love having you on. Thanks for joining us, brother Teddy. Lots of shows still to come. Last year's #1 NFL expert at WagerTalk, which basically, from my perspective, means the best damn NFL expert on the planet. Carmine Bianco still to come, and he's going to look at the Detroit Rams Sunday night primetime game. Before we get into that, it's time for your big game breakdown.
So Jalen Milroe only threw 9 passes last week for Alabama. He only needed to throw 9. They won the game 63-0 against Western Kentucky. Let's talk Alabama and USF. 7 o'clock Eastern time, Saturday night, ESPN. We'll call it a showdown. I'm not sure it's a showdown because Alabama's a 31-point favorite. Total in this game sitting at 64. These two teams met. Oh, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But last week, Alabama's all about the defense and the running game. 45 carries, 350 yards on the ground. The Hilltoppers had 40 pass attempts for 103 net yards. It was complete domination of the line of scrimmage. And Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's new head coach, first 4 weeks of the season against the spread in his career. He had 2 years as head coach in Washington and 1 here at Alabama. We 6-1 at Washington ATS and 1-0 at Alabama early in the season. And it's worth noting the only ATS loss DeBoer has had, Washington was laying 34. They won by 33, literally. So it's a scenario where this is not a coach who I'm in any rush to step in front of in early season non-conference action. Now, Bama has Wisconsin next week. then a bye, then Georgia. So they do have bigger fish to fry than this team. But they played USF last year, and it might have been, it was the worst part of the season for Alabama. They had just lost straight up to Texas. They had the SEC opener with Ole Miss on deck. It's as bad a spot as there is in college football. That game was 3-3 at the half against USF. The final touchdown to make it 17-3 final came with 30 seconds left. Saban could have taken a knee, and he didn't. So USF gave Alabama everything they could handle last year, but that had a lot more, in my opinion, to do with the spot than the matchups. Bama, flat as a pancake on the road in a very hostile environment. I'm going to talk about the USF Bulls in just 1 second. First, get your 3-day all-access pass right now, just $49. With this pass, you'll get every play every day. NFL, college football, MLB, soccer, UFC. Doesn't have to be me, from any expert at WagerTalk.com with any selections that they release, including all 5% plays as well. You can choose as many handicappers as you like, and you can enjoy the freedom to pick your start date. So if you want to get it for this weekend, for example, you can do that. 3-day all access, just $49 at WagerTalk.com. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. When it comes to South Florida, this is a program that was at the bottom. They were 4-29 straight up from 2020 to 2022. Last year, they brought in former Tennessee offense coordinator Alex Golesh as the head coach, and boom, 6-6 in the regular season, a bowl win, 7-6 season. They have 10 starters back on that offense. I worry about the defense. They allowed 35 points per game last year during the regular season, despite that tremendous performance against Alabama. And then they shut out no-show Syracuse in the bowl, so it looks a little better than it was. But last week, the opener against Bethune-Cookman, 48-3. Byron Brown, their QB, he's no future NFLer. Goalish, quote, worth noting, going to Alabama is actually huge for us. They came to our place. We have every opportunity to be successful in that game, couldn't finish it. Now we get to redeem ourselves. No lack of confidence there. That said, I'm not betting against a boar. I think the play here is under Alabama's defense, USF defense, likely to keep this game from getting out of hand with touchdown after touchdown. Look at under 64 when it comes to the Bama Crimson Tide on Saturday night. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
7 minutes to go, guys. It's $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk. Ben Burns is our $2 Tuesday expert since 2022. Not one expert at WagerTalk has been better than him in the NFL. He's also on a 7-0 run coming into the season. His big game record is ridiculous, 48-24. He's got a big NFL bet. It literally is only $2. But even more important than that, Teddy, inside of Ben's package, when you buy the $2 play, you get a promo code for Carmine Bianco. And nobody was better last year in NFL than Carm. Carm, what is the promo that everyone is going to bet when they buy Ben Burns' $2 Tuesday play?
Yeah, Ben's on a great run. The Ben is mightier than the sword, but I'm going to go after him this year. We're going to have a little bit of a battle, him and I. They'll get a 50% off of my NFL play that's loaded. It's a 4% total. Last year, I only released 16 totals throughout the NFL regular season, picking up 24.2 units of profit with those totals. So, there's not a lot. There's a lot of totals bettors, but I wasn't really one of them last season. I split it up between the sides were my best last season, gaining 28.75% on the way to a regular season 60.2% and 75 or 76.5%, or 76.5 units of profit. I gave a little bit back in the playoffs, but still finished up close to 70 units of NFL profits the last season. So we'll see if we can keep that going this year, Lawrence.
Well, there you go, guys. Buy a Ben Burns' $2 play. You get a promo code for 50% off of Carmine's 4% play. And yes, we are Sally today. Welcome to football. This is how it's going to be. We're always going to give you guys actionable information along the way, no matter what. The show has been great so far. Nick Parsons came on here, gave the Chiefs out on the money line, -145. He likes Maryland -8.5. We had Trigger with Syracuse +3 and the Diamondbacks -130. Teddy's big game breakdown as well. And Carmine Bianco has now got 2 bets for us. We're going to start with the Rams. Yes, Teddy, I did not listen to your big game breakdown. You knew that.
I was 100% sure you had no idea whether I had side total.
Yeah, full disclosure, I had some other stuff to do. I'm sorry. I missed your big game breakdown, and you knew I did. I saw yours. We've been doing this together too long,
I know,
Teddy.
way too long. Let's get some breakdown. Enough with the plays that people have already watched. Let's get some breakdowns from Carm.
Carm, prime time, baby. Sunday night, a rematch of last year's Rams-Detroit game. You like the over 51. We're expecting a shootout. Tell us why.
And we are expecting a shootout. And listen, you can go back to that, that playoff one, and you can say, these two teams, they met in the first round of the playoffs last season. Both QBs were phenomenal in that game, 120 plus QB ratings in those ones, and the game finished 24-23, so 47 points, which is 4.5 points shy of this total. But it's one of those ones where I look at it, the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions in that game, there was 37 points at halftime in that game, only 9 points in the second half of that one. I believe 9 points in the second half of that one. And the Lions were just trying to win a playoff game, their first since '92. I was 24 back then. The last time they won a playoff game, I think it was against the Cowboys. But, this is a new season, week 1. Obviously, some changes to this Rams team. I do like the Rams to have a really good season. I'm not sure if they're going to be ready out of the gate defensively, though. Obviously, Arnold no longer there. This is a guy that last season was double teamed on 63% of the plays that he was in this season. This is, I think there's a youth moving with that defense as far as the defensive line and linebackers on this Rams team. 4 of their 6 picks in this draft were on defensive linemen and the defensive front. So we'll see what they have. Tre'Davious White. This is a guy, Lawrence. I'm a Bills fan. I loved when this guy was on our team, but this guy wasn't on our team for the last couple of years. He spent so much time on that injury reserve list. And he's got to be ready right from the get-go, because you look at the tools on, the offensive tools on this team. Obviously, Jared Goff, St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, and I know that there's some speculation about guys like Gibbs and Laporta coming into whether they're going to be ready for the first game of the NFL season. They are going to play, according to Dan Campbell. They sat out the 3 preseason games. They were on the field. They were practicing. He said he saw nothing that would exclude them from playing. Whether they manage how many plays are on the field remains to be seen. But Laporta had a great season last year. And it's a Rams team that, if you look at the Rams last season, they allowed, where is the numbers here? They allowed the most, the sixth most receiving yards to tight ends, the 3rd most touchdowns to tight ends as well too. How ready are they going to? Are they going to be? I'm not entirely sure, Lawrence, and this is why I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, because you got Stafford on the other side. I get it, an aging quarterback, or a guy who's off a very good season, a full season of Cooper Kupp, obviously Puka right back in there. I've got him on my fantasy team. I'm excited about that. And then new kickoff rules. Kyrie Williams is actually returning punts. A little surprised by that. I think a lot of people are surprised he's returning punts. But the NFL has put this rule change in because they want these down kicks. They want some action. They want some scoring. Primetime unders were a thing last year, almost 70%. I don't see it being a thing this year. I think we're going to see higher scoring across the board. And I think if we see it early on in the first few weeks of the NFL season, we're likely going to see some of these totals adjust, especially with teams with good kick return games. The over seems like the play for me. Rams 4-1 to the over the last 5 road games last season to end the season. Detroit, 9 straight overs in openers against NFC opponents. And this is a team with the number 2 passing offense last year, 258.9 yards. I'm looking for this one to come down to who has the last possession in a high-scoring game, and I'm waiting for you, Teddy, so come at me.
Well, let's see. The Lions stayed under in the season opener last year. You talked about how well the quarterbacks played in the postseason. That game stayed under the total. And Sean McVay in season openers, 5-1 to the under last 6. Consistent unders again and again. Do any of those worry you about this one? I mean, and you also said, oh, we're definitely not going to see that 70% primetime unders again this year. Why not?
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think I think this new kickoff. I think this new kickoff rule was put in place to put points on the board, Teddy, to have more action. And you look at it, and you look at some of the just the rule, just to go over this this rule in general. The kicking team cannot move until the opposing player, the 10 players on the line, cannot move until the opposing kick returner has touched the ball. This is going to give a guy like Williams, who returned punts in college, not a ton of them, but he returned, and a guy that anytime you put the ball in this guy's hands, he is going to put on a show. I know a lot of players, when you had a running back and your number 1 running back, you don't want to see him returning punts because you worry about the injuries. But I think this rule is in place to increase scoring across the board, and I think it's going to have that effect at least early on until teams can make an adjustment. And I'm not really sure what adjustment you can make as far as this new kickoff return thing. I just think we see points here, Teddy. I'm not really worried about last year's prime times because I think that you look at the trend the last 5 years, and you can say the last 5 years. Primetime unders have been profitable. I think over almost 260 or 270 games, 50 more games have gone under than have gone over. So you think that is great, but these are why the rules were put in.
Carmine, we're going to get to your baseball game. No follow-up question on it. So, Teddy, relax. Philadelphia against the Jays. You like the terrible Toronto Blue Jays at -120. Really?
Yeah, I do. Listen, this is one where, like Trig talked about guys coming up from the minors. It's the September baseball. Teddy talked about looking for sometimes dogs in September baseball, and they're not dogs here. The Jays are actually favored returning from a road trip, and you normally want to fade a team returning from a road trip, but this is not one where you look at the Phillies, and I think they put any thoughts of the Atlanta Braves catching them to rest this last series where they won 3 out of 4 games. They come in and they're really coasting, Lawrence. 16-14 since the All-Star break. Blue Jays 15-14 since the All-Star break. 7-9 on the road, and I think they're just coasting to the postseason. They know they're 7 games up. They know they're going to win it. They bring up a guy from Lehigh Valley, Tyler Phillips, he's had, I think, 4 starts. He got pounded in August in 3 starts, 17 earned runs, 20 hits over 11 innings, a whip of 2.27. And I think this is a quick 2-game set. I think they win the second game tomorrow because they have a very good number 4 starter for them. But this is one where I think the Phillies are coasting, and the Jays have a lot of young, exciting players trying to win their spots for next season. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Phillies start to rest some players. Bryce Harper, his power numbers are down since the All-Star break. Only 5 home runs, 21 prior to the All-Star break. He's got that nagging elbow injury that he's been talking about, the wrist injury. They're going to give him some time off, I have to believe, and it could start tonight. As Bryce goes, the Phillies go as far as how far they go in the playoffs. This is one where, while this show's been going on, a little bit of money has been coming on the Blue Jays. I'm seeing some 122s and 124s on the WagerTalk live line. Bassett goes for the Jays. He hasn't been the best, but when the Phillies were on an 18-3 run in May, he went into Philadelphia and shut them down 6 1/3 innings, 2 runs off of 3 hits. And that's when the Phillies were playing their best ball. They're not playing their best ball right now. We'll see if Bassett could do it today at a low -120 price.
Carmine, awesome stuff, dude. Guys, remember, if you buy Ben Burns' $2 Tuesday play, you get a 50% off coupon inside of that play for Carmine's NFL 4%. Carm, I feel like that is promotion enough. You are our number one NFL expert. Kick ass this season, my brother. Lots of love. And I'm sure I'll see you in the next few days somewhere, somehow. And remember, I'm calling you in an hour. Teddy covers. Fun show today. Shout out to Nick Parsons, $2 Tuesday handicapper at Sportsmemo. Adam Trigger, the most loquacious human being I've ever met in my life. And Carmine Bianco, one of the genuinely best guys on the planet. Shout out to Brendan. Already used the coupon for my 5% play. Brendan, lots of love. Prez 10, everybody. That's Prez 10, $10 off of my 5% play for this coming Sunday. I'm about to tape the NFL presidential address. I'm pumped. I'm psyched. I'm ready. Art to Caesar and more tomorrow. Teddy, take us home.
Enjoy the games. Good luck. We'll be back again tomorrow with another edition of WagerTalk Today.